さあ皆様こんばんは。今週も始まりましたよ、Cardano Radio。もう2週にわたってもうめちゃくちゃテンション上がりますよね。なんかね、ベスパーのその名前の由来とかね、2025年の振り返りがいっぱいありましたけどね。そして2026年のね、こんなこともやっていきたいというところの話もね、いっぱいというか最後の方にね聞かせてもらったので、ちょっとねその辺もちょっと触れていけたらいいなと思います。そして先週も皆さん言いましたけども、アーカイブもありますよ。 YouTube でぜひのアーカイブも聞いてくださいね。カルダノラジオで検索してください。そしてカルダノラジオ自体もまた明日ラジオでいろいろこれから発表することもいっぱい出てくると思うのでね、まあこうご期待というところでよろしくお願いしたいと思っております。さあもうこれね、僕のもう、トークはいいと思いますので、早速またね読んでみたいと思います。じゃあ言いましょう。 Alex, thank you for joining in.
Thank you. Good to be back again.
Alright, so we did a recap last week, and we kind of briefly touched on your vision about 2026. So maybe starting some roadmap of 2026 might have been good, I thought. So if you want to carry on from there too.
Absolutely happy to do so. So yes, as we were saying last week, like 2025 was focused a lot on the in-person presence for Vespr Wallet.
Yeah,
there's also been quite a lot of focus on the I guess the localization of the application to make it more accessible globally by adding more languages, more currencies. And now 2026, the main focus will be on the Bitcoin integration. And this comes in two steps. We're hoping within a few months now, very few months, to launch the initial release of the Bitcoin integration. So that what this means is that in Vespr Wallet, you will be able to send and receive Bitcoin as well as runes, ordinals, stuff like this. So it's not going to be Bitcoin only, but also all the tokens and NFTs from the Bitcoin network. I guess this is by far the very first thing that we're focusing on. Most likely will also include a network connector similar to Cardano that would allow you to connect to the dApps on Bitcoin. But this is pretty much as far as the first iteration goes. Then on the second iteration, we will be looking into natively integrating into the application some functionalities that are specific to Bitcoin. And this would most likely be swapping between different tokens on the Bitcoin network. So the same way we have the swap now through Cardano tokens we would have for Bitcoin. We would also look to integrate bridging capabilities so that you can easily go from Bitcoin to Cardano and vice versa. And then on the last step, we would be looking at collaborating closely with all of the projects that we mentioned last week, which are focusing on the Cardano as a Bitcoin DeFi layer, with the main goal of creating very good, safe yield opportunities in the Bitcoin ecosystem, which is the very first important step for this vision. This also implies integrating safe bridging, non-custodial bridging opportunities for Bitcoin to be able to be bridged into the Cardano network without the help of centralized or multi-sig bridge, which is usually the biggest risk factor when you bridge assets. Because looking in general at all the bridges, the big bridges that exist in all the ecosystems, and if you're also looking at all the massive exploits that ever happened in the crypto space, you'll notice that almost all of them are bridges So like when you bridge a token from one network to another, you end up locking the counterpart. So let's say if you want to bridge Bitcoin into Ethereum, which is something that happens nowadays with wrapped Bitcoin, you have the Bitcoin being locked. It's not actually locked. It's being held somewhere on the Bitcoin network, and then they mint some wrapped Bitcoin on Ethereum. And the idea is that when you move back wrapped Bitcoin into Bitcoin, they burn the wrapped Bitcoin and they unlock some of that Bitcoin from the Bitcoin network. But most of the times, those are not necessarily the safest, because the Bitcoin that's being kept on the Bitcoin side is usually it's not secured by some kind of smart contract most of the time. It's just some kind of centralized entity or like multi-sig script or something similar that controls it, which means that it is exploitable. And this is what happens most of the time. And the problem is that if you have like 100 rough Bitcoins on Ethereum and 100 locked Bitcoins in Bitcoin, but somehow the bridge gets exploited and someone ends up stealing the 100 Bitcoin, like from the Bitcoin side, you're left with 0 Bitcoin on the Bitcoin side and 100 Bitcoin wrapped on Ethereum side, which becomes worthless because you cannot redeem it anymore for real Bitcoin. So this is basically kind of how most of the hacks happened, like the big hacks with the bridges. The advantage now is that with Bitcoin and Cardano, we have technical similarities. They are both following a very similar it's not accounting, it's the UTXO model for tracking all the fund movements. And this similarity and not only allows Cardano to come with some very, I'd say, different and safer alternatives for bridging between the two networks, which would not be like managed through some centralized or some multi-sig wallet. And like this is kind of like the main thesis on why everyone says that Cardano would make a great DeFi layer for Bitcoin, because we can allow the bridging from Bitcoin into Cardano as wrapped Bitcoin through some completely like script-based approaches that will be safe from exploits. And then once the Bitcoin is safely bridged, you obviously have the possibility of integrating with different lending platforms like Fluid Token, Liquid, and stuff like this. You can start doing swaps and everything with the wrapped Bitcoin Cardano, and like all of this sort of stuff that's already happening on other chains, but with the security advantage that the bridge itself is completely decentralized. But going back to Vespr, we would basically look to integrate this bridging mechanism. There's currently multiple companies working on finalizing such non-custodial bridge. So there's the Bitcoin OS people. I believe Fluid Tokens is building one. IOG is also working. BitLayer, if I'm not mistaken, is also working on this. So it's like quite a lot of companies. It's a bit of a race there to see who gets first across the deadline and provides a very good bridging solution between the two. But it's coming, and we'll be looking at all of those options to like integrate at least one of them into Vespr.
I'm all security-wise too. I mean, it's managing what you guys are already managing in your wallet is a really hard task to accomplish. But having the DeFi layers and bridging and all the responsibilities, that is very difficult task you got to tackle for 2026, right?
It absolutely is. We have a lot of security layers in general in place, and those are to make sure, first of all, it's always a nightmare, to get someone telling you that they lost their funds either because they got hacked or something. So we're doing our best always to prevent this we use some multi-layered approaches when you perform multiple operations in Vespr, so that we guarantee that what you see is what is going on. To give an example, even with the in-app swaps, we have multiple layers where we secure by checking exactly the transactions that are being formed, because you have the server side, which builds the transaction and everything. Then the server side validates that the transaction itself is as expected, so there's nothing surprising in there. But once that transaction is done and gets back to the Vespr application, there's another layer again of validation where the application checks to make sure that what it receives matches exactly what it expects. So like basically, even if one of the elements here is somehow compromised, which whatever, it's not happened to date and I don't expect it to happen, you still have like the other layers which would prevent the funds from being lost. And I guess the idea is that using all of those elements, like swapping directly through Vespr, like when you're making transactions through Vespr versus using a dApp or something, we can validate all of those to make sure that everything is as expected. When you use a dApp though, so for example, if you're swapping through a dApp, the problem is that we cannot, like the application cannot know the user intent. So the only thing that we can do there is to show a summary of exactly what's happening. But since the action is performed through the dApp itself, the user intent is like not available to us. So what this means is, let's say you're going to min swap and you want to exchange 100 ADA into min token. The website itself, like MinSwap, knows that you want to do this, but the operation sent to the wallet for approval, all we can see is a transaction spending 100 ADA practically. So we cannot possibly know that this was the user intent. But when you do it, let's say if you swap using the in-app swaps, 100 ADA for the min token, we know, because you've done it through Vespr, we know that the intent is to swap 100 ADA. And then, like when the transaction gets prepared and everything for the swap, we can validate the transaction to match the user intent that we know for sure. So yeah, like performing the interactions through the wallet, like where there's native integration versus via the dApp, like is usually like much safer.
That's exactly, you know, how you said. And you know, people, maybe some people didn't really follow everything you said, but you know, and it's really hard to put the technical terms in a simple term, but you know, having the different layers is very good. And you know, security is the biggest thing. And you know, like was it, I don't know, maybe a month ago or 2 months ago, remember about the was it the Tether? Not the Tether, the USDC got kind of messed up, and it also happened in the Cardano network where, you know, a lot of, you know, money got mistakenly liquidated and stuff too, right? So it's very scary thing, you know? I mean, even people are careful, they kind of mess up sometimes. So it's
Have you seen, it's actually, so in December, the Trust Wallet got compromised. A lot of people lost their funds.
Yeah. I heard about that, and they're saying they're probably or hopefully trying to reimburse everybody back. But I really don't understand how they got.
I think there's like at least $10 million that they need to reimburse. It's a lot of money. So what's happened there is actually something where the way Vespr is built is pretty much advantageous and a lot safer against such an attack, is that it was a supply chain attack. That's what it's called. What this means is that the project itself was using a dependency on some kind of external library, and either that library itself or some dependency that the library was having some compromised code. So someone got access to, usually like one of those popular libraries got somehow hacked, like someone got access to it, and they end up pushing a new release with some compromised code in it.
I see.
And if it's a library that a lot of other libraries use, it ends up being indirectly picked all the way into the front-facing products, because it's a bit like applications are built through components. Even if you're thinking of something like hardware in a TV, you have the screen, you have the motherboard, you have all of those things. Like it's similar to application. Like instead of having like physical components that you put together, you have like libraries which are kind of like digital components that you put together, and then you connect and you like do all of that stuff. So in one of the sub-components, like the malicious code was introduced, which like ended up stealing the recovery phrases and like pretty much exploiting them, sending them away for being drained. And the other big problem here is that Trust Wallet, and not only Trust Wallet, but most of the wallets in the Web3 space, including Cardano, are based on JavaScript and on tech stacks using JavaScript. This is primarily a it's a web-first language, like programming language, but it's very, very loose in terms of what it allows you to do. So it's not as restrictive. You can pretty much inject code and monitor or extract information from completely unrelated bits pretty much undetected. So it makes such exploits very likely, because you can import, let's say, a component that's for I don't know, like let's say like you import monitor like in a TV, and the monitor ends up tackling the internet connection of the TV. This obviously makes no sense, because the monitor is only for displaying and it should have no potential way of interfering with the internet connection. But in JavaScript, the components are not exactly bound by similar approaches. They can interfere like at the root level and inject unrelated code. This is one of the very big security flaws of like applications using JavaScript, and the way the dependencies to those external packages is being managed is also very loose. Like they tend to update a lot, and they tend to have like, I don't know, thousands of components most of the time, because it's an ecosystem bound a lot by components depending on other components. But I guess this is some differentiating factor for us, for example, because Vespr is not built on this technology at all. And security is one of the reasons. Also, it can provide a much better user experience what we're using, because we're Flutter based, like the technology. But such exploits do not exist to this degree in this ecosystem, because you have this better limitation. You cannot have a component that accesses completely unrelated stuff in general, like to this degree, where you can put something that ends up like stealing parts of code or user inputs randomly.
I see. Well, yeah, I mean, there are some scary, not only Cardano wallets, but in general, like, being not like a super dev guy, I always think about, for example, like this happened to me before, is like your credit card. Like, even if you don't use it, somebody, gets your 16 digits or 12 digits, whatever it is, 16 usually, but, they just get the computer going and get the digits, and sometimes it works magic, and boom, and somebody uses your credit card, and, you lose money. Of course, there's insurance with the credit card companies, but, like, what I first came to Cardano a long time ago with the seed phrase, maybe with the 12 and 15 and was it 24? I kind of I'm not like a super geeky tech guy, so I wouldn't know, but like if I were to think as a bad guy, and there's a limited amount of for example, let's say the 15 word phrase, there's always a limit. It's not like infinity. So I wonder like what if they somehow manage to like get the right combination and to steal the funds. That I don't know. It's a possibility though, don't you think?
I mean, the possibility of hitting correct credit card number by entering random details is bigger than the possibility of randomly guessing a wallet by guessing the 15 words. So the number of combinations is so big that, while it's technically possible, it's not practically possible. So the combination that exists is way too vast to actually be realistic that you will guess. So it's kind of like a statistics game.
I see. So we
because
have to
similarly, you have the credit cards and you have the 16 digits on it. Those 16 digits are have way less combinations compared to the number to the words on a wallet. So by the same logic, you can guess credit card numbers and you have way more chances of succeeding than trying to guess a wallet.
Yeah. Everybody listening to the radio, do not do that, please. That's not something for fun, but yeah. Well, anyways, thank you for the wrap for 3 weeks. We got one more week to talk about, but that was a great deep episode again. And I don't know. We'll discuss. It's going to be the last episodes. I think there's a lot more for us to talk about. But thank you very much for giving me 3 weeks so far. And Alex, I'll be looking forward to seeing you next week again.
Thank you very much. So it's a pleasure to come back.
Okay, so I will see you next week. Thank you.
See you.